And good morning. Good morning. So, we're going to get to it. Gonna get to it. I might have to take a break and go kill a wasp or hornet. I don't know. There's one out in the barn today. It's annoying the milking crew, aka my wife. All right. Hopefully, we don't have to do that. I don't want to get stung today. Actually, I've never been stung. Forgetting some important bits. All right. Where did we leave off? What did I just run? Oh, publish dev and run the dev environment for the dev. Run dev for the dev environment? How do you say that? Updated OBS this morning. It's a bit of a mistake. Got more Twitch widgets, but I don't know that I wanted more Twitch widgets. All right. So I think I might take a moment to adjust the desk to standing mode. How's everyone doing? Happy Wednesday. There we go. That's a bit better. Getting some high packet loss. Wonder why. Either that or our signal's really good. It's just because I updated Twitch. Now they adjusted the dropped frames bit. Because that's less than 1%, and it's saying, okay, yeah, that's not. There must be some sort of window. Let's see, can I even show this? Oh, there we go. Okay. But you can see right up over here, the drop stuff's there. Oh, because this 200 is not, it's not 6% of 3,000. So that's changed. That, and my phone decided to jump off the desk. All right. We're ready. Gateway timeout. Anyhow, let's go back in here. Where did we leave off? So 2 days ago, forever ago, we left off the morning with having figured out that you have to do a publish to an environment to upload your durable objects. Running Wrangler Dev doesn't just do that for you. So we had that, and then we were getting some logging, which was great, except it doesn't always work. Later that evening, I actually tried it out again, and I wasn't getting logging. So that seems a little temperamental, but given that it's beta, What do we expect? Logging. Logging would be nice. um, I don't think it's anything that I was doing for that causing that error, but who knows? Morning, Zenocron. How are you? It's one of those mornings, huh? It's Wednesday. No. In here, I had to change a number of things. I have read body actually returning a vector of U8s. Before it was returning an array buffer. I adjusted this. I believe this works. Not certain, but there's a good chance it works. I mean, arguably this should probably be a little bit more generic. Oh, you know what? I did that fix me off camera. So here we're reading the request's body just into a vector of U8s. I don't know how useful this is. Because we could either, oh, it's your last day off. Your mental is at its peak. The fermenting has gone well. um, and check on my wife real quick. Can hear movement out there. All right. No. See, you can get this reader like this, and you can slowly start to parse data that's coming in. But we're not doing that. We're just collecting it into a V8, a vector of U8s, right? A V8. Yeah. Mental fermentation. But I thought that, what was that? Oh yeah, I was looking at email stuff. Mailgun, Rust Playground. Rocket.rs some time ago. This is pretty much it. I looked at Rocket for a little while. I never used it for anything. I've used Actix Web, Wrangler. No, not Wrangler. The W one. I think it starts with a W. Oh, is it .org? I can't keep these things straight. Warp. Used Warp. But I used another one as well. What was the other one? Tactics. I didn't use Gotham. I used Iron really early on. Yeah, just mainly Warp and Actix Web. I prefer Warp over Actix Web, although it's been a long time since I've used Actix. It's so invasive. It is a bit. Although I think it'd be nice to try out Rocket someday. That and Tide. Tide seems like it's got a lot of possibility. What is good making Twitter? If you're looking at any of these crates, goodness, Oh, Rocket's not async friendly. Actually, that's a great question, is it? I guess if you need that kind of performance, Warp is. I mean, it doesn't look async. And I don't remember seeing anything. Oh, you know, I'm going to change the station back to. Were we doing trans before or. I think it was trans. I looked through this the other day and I don't remember seeing anything async in this. Yeah, Actix is async. But uh, question for you. How much traffic do you have? Right? Do you have enough traffic that they're going to saturate a core or something? I mean, you could definitely, if you're just looking long term, saying, oh, you know what, I really need this to be super performant, well, then you're probably going to be looking at Actix Web, right? Because Actix Web is bleeding edge performant. If we go back a little bit, Tide might be promising too. This is from the Tokyo guys, right? No, it's not entirely. No, but it is async, and that might be worth a try. I've not used it yet, but it's been something worth looking at. Tokyo to RS, I think. If we come back into here, so they've got tower here. They don't really talk about warp in here. But this stack with being able to do tracing, that's really, really nice. What's tonic? Was it tonic? No, that's gRPC. Tower HTTP? You haven't looked at it yet? Okay. Yeah, that I mean this stack I think is more industrial than let's say Actix Web. Actix Web does feel industrial, but it also feels I don't know, not as fleshed out with the ancillary pieces. So I mean just the fact that like Tokyo Stack has a graphic like this, like, hey, we've thought through this. Let's see, actixweb.com. What is it? .rs. Let's just go back. I don't know if they actually let you swap stuff out, or if they just made it so that they could swap stuff out there. I mean, for my own curiosity, I'd say maybe Tower Web or Tower HTTP. Let's take a peek at that one. It's really young. It's really really young. Gotham also does look kind of, although it's looked young for a long time. Um, if I had to pick one to make a Twitter-like clone, I'd go with like ease of use and stuff like that. See, I would say Rocket, but then, well, as you pointed out, it's not async. There's a lot of dead CPU time in there. So if you must have async, would I go with warp? Probably, I don't know. I'd actually try out Tower HTTP, I think. Extracted from one of Embark Studio's internal projects. Its guides might help. Hmm. Yeah, I would probably give it a try. And if that didn't work, I'd probably go back towards warp. Set up just a little, little tiny service with it and just kind of evaluate. Did it, was it easy to use? Was it understandable? Were there good documentation? Was there good docs on this? And these, like, does it do everything you need? I mean, the fact that they're doing like middleware with this, like with the Tokyo stack. Interesting. What's this one? Oh, so it doesn't show in logs. Let's see. Like that's maturity. Even though it's like zero point 0.1, it's 5 days old. I'd try it. All right. So where were we going today? Way over here. We can create new users. So like BL said Gmail. I already created one of these. That plus a router would be a good enough starting point. Yeah. And does it not have a router? Because I thought it did. It's got request builder, client ready. Wait. Oh, they're saying it can also be an HTTP client. Its middleware can be set up that way. Hmm. So you have state with your database bits in it, service builder, set up your layers, extension compression layer, propagate header layer, handler. And that's where your router would be. Where's handler? I lost it. Oh, here's handler. Yeah. And if we go back out, let's say we go to the Git. I thought, I thought they had an well using warp. Interesting. So you'd use this in combination with something else? Serve forever. Da-da-da. Warp service. Huh. So you'd use this in combination with other things. Fancy. Huh. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Stick with Tide for now. Tide, Rocket. I mean, most of the stuff that I build out doesn't need to be insanely scalable, right? So having it not async because I don't have two requests coming in at the same time, that's fine. Then there are some really fast, single-threaded, non-async web frameworks out there. Right? Anytime you use async standard plus HTTPRS instead of Tokyo plus HTTP, it ends up being a mistake. We'll just process one request at a time. But you'll do it quickly. That's the thing, right? Your queue time just got really, really low. That's what most people are going to toss this on some like micro instance in Amazon that's also running Postgres. Might as well just run one at a time. All right. You know, I lost a piece of stats here. Just a moment. Gonna muck around with the new OBS. All right. So we're inside of this user durable object. I would like to be able to delete them too. So we're going to set up a little delete for this. We're basically going to build out some of the CRUD operations. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's basically a big, I don't know, but this kind of feels nice over in that direction. And it looks like it's Tokyo and Warp or something. Do I know how to build an SFTP server with ORest? I do not. I don't. I mean, SFTP is really what? It's FTP over just a TLS encrypted endpoints, encrypted channel. So you set up TLS and then implement FTP on top of that. Just gonna grab these. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, from here, we're just gonna do a. Let's see, where's storage? Grab the state, and then, or we use the state. Where is it? I like this. I'm gonna delete all. So this is how we're going to delete this object. We'll send a delete request. Delete all. We need that on the durable object. It's just for downloading files via SSH. Oh. So it's actually FTP over SSH? Yeah, I get those two mixed up too. Now, what is the list of HTTP codes? So if we successfully delete something, is it just at 200? Oh, interesting. 202. It's been accepted for processing, but it has not been completed. I'm guessing it's kind of a 200. Huh. For delete, 200 or 204. Okay, so probably 204 because we're not returning an entity. Oh, you know what? Let's create one of those. Success deleted. Durable objects. So we'll return a success deleted from that. And I've been thinking that these things should include this bit here. I don't know. Okay, let's make sure that the durable object storage, that its object has that API. Where is that? That's durable object storage. Put entries, get all. Delete all. And it does not take any arguments. Returns a promise though. Now, I don't think that they discussed what it returned, did they? Deallocating all storage used by the worker. Once delete all has been called, no subsequent durable storage operations, including transactions and operations or on transactions, may be executed until after the delete all operation completes. Sure. In the event of a failure while the delete all operation is still in flight, it may be that only a subset of data was properly deleted. Ooh. So you call it twice? You basically call it until it succeeds? So if that fails, just do it again. Because you're left in some horrible state where you have half an object or a portion of an object. Wow. Oh, that's unfortunate. Still mucking around with. There we go. OBS. Okay. There's got to be a better way to do that. Because we're not... while let r equals this. Just keep deleting. All your workers get stuck in this like 100% CPU lock. Maybe we have some sort of like we'll try it 10 times or something. So a little bit more reasonable. Some arbitrary number. Right? Like if it fails twice in a row, then what? Okay, equals that. Then we will return success. Otherwise, if we get to the tail end of this and we still haven't deleted, even though we did this twice, we'll say, yes, we handled this, but it was an epic failure. Could not delete all entries. Necessary parens. Okay, let's go through this little rabbit hole again. Okay, good. Now, I want to make this a little bit more generic because it looks like we're going to have some sort of user object that has keys, that has values, and eventually we might actually have to return pieces of it. I mean, this is the creation one here, so we're given a bunch of stuff. Hmm. All right, so we have a delete. We need to wire that up to some sort of request outside of delete. So let's go into users, users new. What is somebody going to do? They're going to have some list of users. which we can't list out right now. Turns out that we have to build the list of users on our own. So when we create something in a durable object, there is no way to list the durable objects that you've created. Not yet. I've reached out in Discord, and that's on the list. Where is it? Discord over there. So eventually, durable objects will get the ability to list. Kind of like key value pair listeners, right? And not listing once you're inside of a durable object, but listing the durable objects that are in a namespace. Yeah. But for now, we have to have some way to actually list them. So we either create some other service for that, which is might be what we have to do for this. Have a durable object that manages the other durable objects, or just records information about it, because we don't want it to be a choke point. But we want it to be available. So we've got this and this. Oh man, I love that keyboard. Yeah, this little beast here. This thing is the keys are getting like polished and stuff on it because I've used it for 10 plus years. Let's say we create a new user, right? We have to say, hey, this should be recorded somewhere. So maybe at the bottom, right after the save, wherever that is. Oh, this is the wrong file. Oh yeah, Xenocron's DAW files are much prettier than mine. Change the keycaps. Never. I mean, they're nice and smooth now. Need a disclaimer. Change it to Xenocron's pretty dot files. Your dot files look so much better than mine. So yeah, here just before we return. It seems like for now we would have to build out our own list, which would be okay. But what are we going to put in the list? Are we going to serialize the data from this? Get all of our key value store. Because this thing here should be in charge of this entry. But then we might duplicate quite a bit of it over in the other one. I wonder what we would store in the other one. All right, let's set up a new durable object. Wrangler publish. Env development. What was it? New class. Users. The other one didn't have that little S at the end. Oh, does this have to actually build? Users class not found. Fine. All right, let's build out the users class. Source, durable objects, users.rs. Anything special we have to do with this? Some stuff down here. Just gonna grab that. Grab WASM bindgen. Oops, not that file. Users, plural, thank you. Yes, we don't have router set up. That's fine. Morning, it's SnellDev. We're setting up a new durable object. Router. We need Mimeograph. Where's your... Import that, yes. And we don't have a post object. Okay. Should be down to the post. We will need a number of these. Should we do it below? I don't know. Before or after these? There's delete. Post. What else? Post, put, get. How about we extract this into another function inside of durable objects mod, because it's going to be nearly the same thing for each one of these. Sure. Run router. Router will be passed in, and it looks like we all did one of these already. Okay, and now our return type. Let's go back to users. Still need that. Let's say get, post, put, delete. And we need the request. I should have just typed that. Feeling ultra lazy today. All right, so we've got a router, we've got a request. Let's see, do we want, which order? This is fine. All right. So we've got our user durable object, which we can gut here. Mismatch types. There we go. And in users. Okay. Now that we have this class here, we have to export it, etc., so that we can register it. Where was that? That's in durable objects mod. Class users on there. Goodbye, emoji counter. Goodbye. All right, so now that it's there, we have to go back up one more. We have to export that. Is it not? What? Use users. Oh, there it is. Like, why is this use just sitting out there? All right, these are ours. All right. So now that we've got it outside of lib, now we have to put it in JS index. Users. And then once it's in index, we'll put it in JS shim. Okay. No. Now we should be able to build it. Hopefully it compiles. I didn't even check. Nope. Unchecked into. That's from JSCast. From WASM bindgen. Oh, interesting. Explicit lifetime required in the type of router. Lifetime static required. How do we do it with the other one? Run router? Here it's not. Here we even say it's async. Huh. Find function. Oh, because we're returning this. In this case, we don't return a promise. But yes, that is static, isn't it? Well, I was thinking that it's owned. We could box that. So what is router? Router is a closure. All right. Here, this is router. It's this closure. It's combining the request with the array of the static array. We could say that this is some other function, like it's not a closure, it's a function, couldn't we? But if we did that, hold on, we would have to know a little bit more about the request. Being a closure, it actually fills some stuff out for us. Is there any reason why this needs to be a closure? It's not closing around anything. And essentially, it's just calling router core with a second argument. So what if we change that? Would that fix it? Because it's saying that router doesn't live long because it's a closure. It's created here. Oh, interesting. If this was a function, so let's say we had a function here, router, that takes something of type request, or it's a what is the type here? This would be a Mimeograph request, basically that trait. So something that implements this, because we would have to give it some sort of type there. And then it would call Mimeograph codegen. That's not exported, is it? We could create that little function there. could even put it inside of a block and return a function pointer to it. Huh. All right, we're taking a sharp turn. We're going to go explore that. It turns out a router doesn't have to live long enough. It always lives. It's basically static because it's generated at compile time. All right, let's see. Big question, the request type. It would have to take something that impulse adder can go into a boxed version of that. All right. Cargo to Tommel. We're going to override you guys again. Maybe not everything. What are the versions on these things? Yeah. So request, that's not changing, actually. Router. Router cogen. Probably need the cogen bits. Okay. That's there. Oh. Good. Now we go into Mimeograph router. Override it here. So we need to update the version of cogen and helpers. Oh, which one was this? This is cogen. And helpers was... All right. So now we've got it wired up. Now we can make changes to helpers and cogen. I think all we have to do is actually make changes to cogen, though. Selective duplicate. Good morning. I muted myself. Yeah, thank you. And good morning. Happy Wednesday. Proc macros. Your worst fear lurking in the depths. Yes. So how can we make this so that it's basically static? If we had some sort of request type here, right, and we've already got Mimeograph request, and we've got a trait that has to be implemented for router core. All right, and if we go look at router core, can we not jump to there from here? Sure. I think it's in here. Let's take something of type T, which is a request. And request, you know what? We could make it generic like that. Absolutely, we could. Huh. Yes, and then we also have to look at the return type because you would need to be there. Interesting. Now, what was a constraint on T? What's a mimeograph request, which makes sense. I don't know if we can do this where we basically create a function or a function pointer that we return. We could kind of put some sort of name together based on all the inputs, like on the these guys. Because if they had two routers in the same scope, we don't want them to clobber each other, right? They can't have the same name. Hey, good morning. Morning. Oxygen. How are you? Oh, tell a bad joke, actually. If you want to tell one, you're free to. How do fish count on their fish fingers? That's not that's a bad one. I mean, what do you call a blind dinosaur? Do you think he saw us? Didn't. You're finally using Rand on a project. Rand is cool. Rand is cool. I think that's exported via Mimeograph router. Means we also need a U. I don't know if this is going to work, but it should let us return a function pointer, but I don't know if the types are going to get stamped out for that. Excuse me. All right. A mic accident. All right. So now we'll try to compile this. Mismatch types, expected reference to const route tu, found reference. Is our router here is design type. And that looks all right. Huh. All right, but where's the mismatch type coming from? Argo test. Going into proc macro land. Be on the lookout. Ah, yes. Cannot infer type. Consider giving router the explicit type. I don't want to do that. People shouldn't have to put that in their code. Because it's having trouble figuring out what the successful return type is. Makes sense. If we return this directly, actually, could we? If we were going to butcher the kind of namespace here, can you assign a function to a local? Can you have an unnamed function in Rust? That just seems like magic. Expected expression. Yeah. Found keyword function. Yeah, that wouldn't work. Okay. And we do not know the types that are returned from these. Not at this point. We're just generating their names. We have no idea what the types are, which is why the closure was so handy. Returning the closure to the local was really, really slick there. Basically, now let's open up tests. Line 40 something, right? Here. Basically, what we're returning from this gets assigned to the local, right? To router. And then we're going to be able to do things with router. In this case, router had been a closure. We were returning a closure. Then the closure was able to determine the compiler was able to determine the return type of the closure based on this set of arrays here. Because I could look at router core for this. I guess the return type from router core is actually the same thing here, I believe. We could call this Bob or whatever we wanted. We're going to call it router. I think having to specify what the return type is a little too much. Like I don't like that. As a consumer of the library, I don't think we should have to say, oh, you know what, this is a dyn function that takes a foo and returns a, you know, something bar, yada yada yada. That's not going to be too much, and nobody's going to know how to do that. So, expected reference, const route, found reference, const route, request string, result. See, it doesn't know what T and U are. Is there any way we could actually give it that type information? It can't inspect these. It just knows that these are tokens. At least that's what I presume. Can one of these macros like this actually know what the type here is? Could it inspect that type? Because I know that we're generating a name from it. But could we actually look at the function signature of that? Probably not, because it's not a function signature. And I don't think the compiler knows at this point what that type is. So it's not going to be able to give us anything about this. So we would really have to have like a just to play around with this. Let's say that we didn't put this in a block. We had something like that. And we didn't assign it to a local. It just declared that, hey, you've got this type. Um, so this is the one that we modified. Expected type parameter T found struct HTTP request. Because we're not actually calling it. We're just declaring it, aren't we? And the compiler doesn't know how we're going to call it. Man, that closure was so useful. Is there a static version of closure? Closures are unsound. Send in static fn once, where f is send in static. And it'll be send if all of them, it will be send if, okay. It'll be send if all the captured variables are, and the same with static. But in our case, We can't do that here, can we? So if we undid this whole thing, this is what we had at the beginning. We could do something similar and say like, let router equals this, return router. All right, that should still work here, except for the one that we just butchered. Let's put that back. Okay. Test. Expected one of dot, 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 dot. What do we miss? Ah, that semicolon there. Generated code. You get terrible, terrible. All right, so that's going to work. We could do that. But we could also say that this is a nine FN once, FN once. Try to give us some type info. Expected reference, found closure. Expected due to this. So if we borrow the right-hand side, will that fix it? Use parentheses to disambiguate. Ah, yes. So it says around here. Again. Move occurs because router has type yes, which does not implement the copy trait. Now move out of router, which is behind a shared reference. Because we're returning it, isn't it? The size of the dyne FN1s cannot be statically determined, so we'd have to box it. Either that or we change how this is set up. What if we said that you had to define this outside of your function? Like creating some sort of static function outside of it. So instead of having to do this here, it's, you know what? I'm going to create a router. Say, router, and we give it a name, right? We could do something like this. And that would create a function of this type here. It wouldn't be local, but it would just generate some code for that. So if we did change that, input token stream, we'd have to get we would need to get the identifiers off of that first. So first we have to parse a couple of tokens, but then we could get that. Let's pretend that we're doing that just to see if this would work out. So I'm going to pretend that this is here. And we're going to call it match get. Here we're going back to the T and U form. Well, it's either that or we simply let them generate it, right? Because really, they could do this. Pass the request in. So why aren't we just exporting router core as router? And then we need something to generate this array. So instead of router, maybe we have routes. And that actually provides a lot of flexibility. We could still have both. Or you have like the closure version. And you also have one which is just for routes. Could generate this section here. I like that. Then we could export router core, and they could pass the request and this into it on their own, using their own functions. That might work. Let's undo this. Let's build out routes. And really, we just want the wrapped array, don't we? Now, in this case, we are just going to return this array. Patatas, good morning. Wait, no, I can't see this. Is this Nix? How you doing? Nixiative. Oh, with a dot into on it. That was like the easiest one because everything was already built for it. Now we could I'm gonna copy this test here. I'm going to say we're getting the routes, right? which means that this is different. But we're going to be passing the routes and a request into router core. Is router core exported? Mimeograph router. Yes, it is, but it's hidden. Teacher Rust. It seems you're tired. Oh no. Yeah, that sounds like a migraine. Have I seen his new book, Rust for Rustations? I have not. Do you have a link to that? And this isn't the best point for me to teach you Rust. We're doing proc macros, and that might be a little deep for learning Rust. Do I have any videos on Rust for beginners? I was thinking of setting up some videos for just that. Um, Thank you. All right, John, take my money. So what's in this beyond? Okay. How to design reliable, idiomatic, and ergonomic Rust programs based on best principles. Ooh, interesting. Okay, async has been needing something like this. Types and traits, design interfaces. Hmm. I imagine that there's some overlap with testing here. Macros might be interesting, although we've gotten into that already. Would it probably be good? Oh, David only reviewed the book. Yeah, we're not doing the bundle, thank you. All right, I'm going to toss this in another browser. But yeah, I would actually love to do some some videos. I just don't know what to work through for videos on this. I was thinking like the Exorcism IO course, right? Kind of a step-by-step how to do each piece and what to learn out of it. That could be interesting. I just don't know if it would be welcome. You should do that. Because yeah, I mean, this is like doing those like it's a puzzle, right? You're supposed to not have the answer before you go and do it. So that there feels like you would be, I don't know, spoiling the movie. Um, then there are some other videos that are already out there. Like there's the Easy Rust ones. Oh, was it Easy Rust videos? Removing rust. How to remove rust. No. But they do exist. But thank you for this. It's definitely on my wish list now. So if we create routes, should be able to do Mimeograph router core, request with routes. Unresolved macro routes. Because it wasn't exported here. It should be in router code gen, which would be here. Hey, thank you for the follow. Polar Fighter Bear. So that should be exported through there already. Is my setup not working? Cargo, Crago. Rust is gone. Yes. Book is now for beginners. I imagine that's the case. I think, yeah. The way that that works, I've bought some of their books off of there, like that, early access books like that, and you do get the early access. You can get feedback, which is nice for them, right? If there is something in there, some typos, etc., something not working in the examples, and then later, as the rest of it's filled out, you get the full access. I think I did the same thing for, was it this one? I forget which one it was, but I did end up giving feedback because some of the examples would be out of date or have typo in them. All right, so that's working. Why isn't the update working? Cargo check. See, it's compiling it now. What happened? Now if we do our test, is it going to catch it? Hmm. Okay, so that did work. It's just COC that's not up to date. What are proc macros? Great question. Proc macros are procedural macros, and Rust has different kind of macros. They have macro rules, which are the easiest of the macros, the simplest set of macros, where you give it a name, and you can match inputs. And there are different types of inputs you can match here. And then you have code out here. So let's say we had something, and you would give it a type here. We could do TT for now, type tree or token tree. And then at this point, you would say, oh, you know what? I want a macro that calls format, right? And we say, this is something, tis something, whatever it is. And then something here, whatever it is, right? Basically, you have a macro that you can then use somewhere. And this is a broken macro. This is not a functioning one. But I wanted to show you that you could make something very quickly that generates code for you. So if you wanted to do some sort of code reuse for some things that were really hard to extract out into some sort of common function, You could do that via some sort of macro rules. How do we get oh, these. This is part of the editor I'm using knows how to use this set of information from the font I'm using. So Fira code, wherever it is, Fira code has these things. They're called ligatures. So if I combine something like equals and that, we get the funny arrows, or that, or equals, not equals, etc. All right, but back to the macros. Macro rules is for generating something. Given some inputs, you can generate code, right? Now, proc macros give you a lot more ability. They basically give you the token stream for the language. And you can replace tokens. You can generate a lot of code from tokens. All sorts of things. All sorts of things. But in its basic form, it's simply just code generation or modification in the case of proc macros. Why did I do a CSC rebuild? Why did I do a restart? All right. So this looks like it's going to work. It's too bad that I'm already using router. But I guess I don't mind router core there. Because in this case, if we wanted to use it over here, we're going to have our routes like so. And we want to pass in just the routes, actually. Because it would be the same router in here. Wouldn't be passing that in. We'd be passing in the routes. I'm just going to use unit for now until it screams at me. Mimeograph router, router core, request and routes. See, this is the type here. And we need to know the return type. What is the return type on these? I don't remember. Here, if we give it something, then it'll say, no, 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 you got it wrong. You got it wrong. I would have told you, but we're returning future. What do we call this? We had a type for this in the top of our crate. It's this one here, future route result or router result. I don't think it's this one. Must be this one. Yay, we guessed correctly. All right. So now we're not passing the closure in. Passing the routes in and the request. COC. Here. Cargo update. Were we here? Run router. No, that's the wrong one. We were in user. Here. Yeah. Actually, where's... Oh, right here. Proc macro server crashed. Okay. Well, does it work? Cargo check. Oh, yes. Now for the users, it's going to be the same thing. It's routes, routes, and routes. Mismatch types. Yes, we pass that in like so. Krago, check. Yeah, okay, that builds. Now, why wouldn't I use that for everything, that pattern? I'm building up routes, and then just calling Mimeograph router and passing those values in. I can't come up with a reason for it. I mean, the only reason I could think of is maybe somebody has decided to use this crate. Then I'd be changing it out from under them. Which it's really early still. Nobody's dependent on it. All right. This looks like the typical build system out there. I don't know. Like when I see things like, oh, looks like they're testing it. All right, this is probably Crater, the Rust build system. And these others, if it's just bleeding edge, it's probably me. All right. Epic changes incoming. I'm saying we retire this section here. Router. And then we rename. Where'd it go? Here. Instead of router core, just say, oh, you know what? That's router. Because router core takes a request and the routes. I think that's going to be better for... Oh. All right, let's rename router core to just router. Bubble that through. All right, we need another terminal. Not cogen. This is in helper. Edit anyways. We're going to call this router. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this function here, which means router matcher goes away. Yep. The closure goes away. Router macro, that one. We'll have a routes macro. Close that. Get rid of this. So we're just generating routes now. Okay. Then in 3, we'll export that. Unresolved import. That means, well, because of router, we actually need these other types to be public too, don't we? Well, why does it say router isn't there? It should be here. I'm guessing that cargo check. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go back into our I've lost track of which files have what project open. That's helpers. 4 has codegen. 3 has router. Ah, and 2 had router. You go back to Mimeograph. Okay. This should bail when we run the tests. Yeah. Let's fix the tests. General. Okay. It's going to be in here. Basically these here. Routes. And that's it, right? So it's not a huge change. And I think it actually simplifies this. We don't have a closure there anymore. You're just calling a function. It should be able to reduce the code size because we have fewer closures using the same function as long as you're using the same types. Huh. That if anybody is using this, it should be a quick migration. Couple more. Routes. Routes. All right, and this one we can get rid of. This was a little experiment. That's gone now. Okay, what else? Cargo test. I don't think that's all of them. It'll yell at us. There we go. Route get. Okay. Now, in Mimeograph router, we no longer have router core. We have router, and we pass the request and the routes into it. So that works. 3 previous errors. Yeah, so in lib, and lib. And this is the place where we have these different routes that we end up using one after the next. So previously we would say, hey, actually, what are we doing here? Okay, that's routes. Routes. Sorry, I was getting an update on the Hornet situation. What's going on here? Oh, proc macro server crashed. Yeah. That's fine. Fine. Wait, what is this function? This is fetch handler in lib. Oh, this is our entry point. So now we need to match and run those. Okay. Rest routes, mismatched types. How is that mismatched? Standard result, Mimeograph router, EMV request. Wow, I don't see it. Hey, Brooke Zerker. Good morning and welcome, Raiders. How's everyone doing today? Exotic Man, thank you for the follow. Chantilly Cake, happy Wednesday. How you doing? Comes full circle. Yeah, the Rust community on Twitch is rather small. How are you? How was your stream today? You make some more progress? I had a plan today and it went sideways real quick. We ended up changing one of our crates. Small but hopefully growing. Oh, nice. Very nice. So for everybody that doesn't know, we're working on what I call Mimeograph. If you know what WordPress is, think WordPress, but an alternative to WordPress. And it's going to be serverless, built on Cloudflare's Edge network, using WASM and Rust. So, and some of it's rather bleeding edge. So we're trying to get login working today, or at least that's what the plan was forever ago. But things didn't go to plan. So we ended up modifying some of our procedural macros, and we're in the middle of trying to update the code in response to that change. Let's change that to routes. Routes. All right, now run router. This here is very similar to the other one, sadly. But routes is basically that now with a change here. Okay, that should compile. We're getting a lot of these proc macro server crashes. Ah, yes. These do not need to be references. Why is this last one different? Oh, because it's not boxed. So there should be a const route. Kind of similar to the last one. Hey, thank you for the follow. Tiny Goliath. All right. I'm going to grab a type off of here. Was it in here? It's basically this. Here. Basically 3 of those. Okay. Now I think that these routes here, yeah, this is just a proc macro server crashing. Let's go see config. Can I turn that off? Here. Turn that off. Reload now? Yes. Why not? Okay. CSU restart, please. All right. Now in this case, we've got routes. And this is our entry point. When a request comes into Cloudflare, this is where it enters. Okay. They provide us with a request and the environment that this is running in. Right. So if we had some sort of settings, set up some environment variables, we would look for those on this object here. The request has a number of elements on it, but we end up wrapping it to do even a little bit more. Thank you for the follow, guys. I appreciate it. I don't know how to pronounce some of these, so if you have a preference, let me know. No. We're going to try to build it. Cargo build. Because if this builds, then if it works, we're going to release our crate because we made some pretty substantial changes to it, at least in the API. Let's look at the changelog. This is our changelog 050. Removed. Route. Added routes. Let's see. We need migration instructions here. To migrate. S. Let's see. Create routes and pass them into Mimeograph router. I don't like where those backticks are. Let's get rid of those. Just something really light. There we go. Okay, that did build. Let's go ahead and release this stuff. Did we change this? His status. What did we change here? Yeah, we renamed that. Are you gonna lurk? Take care, Brooke. And thank you for that raid. Now, we need to re-release this. Cargo. This is a minor. We need to get UI. Rename router core to a router. Let's push that, then we'll publish it. All right. So that's helpers. Helpers is now O.4. Did we change this one? Yes, we did. Which one is this? This is code gen. This is our proc macro. Okay. Minor. I like this change. Not having those closures there, I think is going to be a nice change. I like how simple that router is. It is nice and simple. Not very opinionated. All right, now for this one. Now, router helpers. Uh-oh. Okay, so here. This one went to O.3. Really? So for CodeGen went to O.3. And helpers went to O.4. And then these. All right. Wait. Why is it compiling alpha? We don't want alpha version. Did I miss one? No, that's good. Oh, it is alpha. Duh. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so that passed. Get UI. Changelog, yes. Dependency is yes, yes. Our test updates, yes. And more tests. So yeah, how do we describe this router? Change from a closure to a function. We'll publish that and move on. Cargo. Did I get that correct in the... Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that this is not enabled. Cargo release minor, major minor. Yes. All right. With that done, cargo.toml over here gets updated. Is get commented out. All right. What are we going to do here? Wrangler, publish, not this one. Basically, going to publish our durable objects to their environment. Oh, that's right. We were we were in the middle. We were in the middle of trying to create a new durable object, and we got into some code reuse issues, lifetime issues. Had to change the router crate to support this. Okay. Wow, that was a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I think the changes were really good and they were needed. That simplifies it quite a bit. Okay. We were in the middle of users creating this one. So we got these to-dos here. Got our routes. This is what we had been doing. This had been a router, and we were passing a router into this run router. Actually, we should change this to like run routes. All right. So you pass the routes in and the request. And in this case, it actually returns a promise, which means that everything has to be static or has to be owned. So we're going to return a future in a JavaScript promise. Okay. So that's nice. I like how that's come together. Because in Cloudflare, you basically can have these things called durable objects. And if we go back over here, this durable objects API here, it's in beta. We were able to get into the beta. I think anybody can get in now. And it's a low latency coordination and consistent storage for the Workers platform. Basically, it's very similar to their other offering, the KV store, except it allows you to avoid like double writes. Changes come into a worker in sequential order, which means that you only have one worker for a given ID. So if you try to get a worker, like a user object, a durable object for a specific user, that's fine. All the requests that then go into that durable object go into the same one globally. So I'm trying not to use them for very much. All right. Let's clean this up a little bit. Not found. What? Ah, yes. Run routes is gone. It's run router. What else? Unresolved import. Oh, no, that should be routes, run routes. That's right. I just changed that. So we no longer need. I'm just going to clean this up just for a moment. So we have fewer warnings. I actually found that the warnings, some warnings point to some more serious issues. Okay, that's never used. We'll use that soon. See, like this one. Should that already be used? I think I tried to use that already in user. Here. See, it's used right here. Hmm. It looks like it's used. Unless this isn't ever used. which means that, yes, I have an error. So that warning actually pointed to an error because my routes doesn't include it. Now it will be used. Okay. So we have delete. Got this. Let's see if the delete fails. Okay. No. I guess that also gets into the case of maybe it shouldn't actually be deleted. Maybe it should just be tombstoned. We'll have to figure that out for the users later. I'm guessing that tombstone makes more sense here. All right. Where were we? Users. Now, when you think of a serverless WordPress, one of the first things you need to do to be able to modify a site is log in. So we've been creating these durable objects to support users. Have little speed bumps every now and then with these things. But it seems to be working at the moment. Now, one thing that we need to be able to do is to be able to list users. Right now, we can create a user, but we can't see users that have been created. Eventually, they're going to have an API for this that lists the durable objects that you have already created, but they don't have that yet. So we're going to go ahead and make it. And that's what this is. This here, our users object, is going to be our listing service for users. It's a durable object so that we don't have like two users getting created at the same time and then they get squished in like a key value conflict and a KV store conflict. Now, what sort of data format do we want for these? It's going to be a list of what? Users. Maintains. Okay. And we're going to need their ID, which is currently their email. What else? Come on, Vim. Vim, stop it. Maybe I mean, we don't have much. We don't need their password hash, their salt. That's pretty much it. We need their permissions, maybe. So when we create a user, we should choose what sort of permissions this user has. I'm trying to keep it like really, really simple for Cloudflare. Not Cloudflare, for our WordPress clone. And I don't really know what kind of permission system I want for this, but something that's really easy to understand would be just having some roles, right? Oh, you're just, you're an admin, you're a super user, you're, just a commenter. And I could see that being rather useful here. Alternatively, we can have permissions based on the object. So, but then we'd have to have like some sort of groups and some hierarchy of users. I do like the role-based approach. Does anybody have an idea of what might be better? I mean, roles kind of translate to permissions, things that you can do in a system. So maybe we just go with permissions. Store the permissions in some sort of signed cookie. Then the workers don't have to check. They just know, oh, this cookie says you have these permissions until such and such a clock. Good luck. And we don't have to check the user store for your permissions. You get that when you log in. All right. So maybe we go with permissions. But how are we going to serialize permissions? And is that a useful task? Because if we end up serializing them into just a set of roles, it's not all that helpful. We could use bit flags, but then you're back to kind of just having a common set of these things for roles. It seems like just having a role, like a named set of bit flags, is going to be simplest. Yeah, let's take a look at Discord. Let's see. I don't know. Is this something I could actually put on screen? Yeah. So they basically have permissions to roles. Can you be assigned more than one role? Probably. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Where permissions are basically the bits, the role is a named set of permissions, and users can have roles. And then you also have permissions to certain places, right? Like certain things you have to have a certain role. So if I edit the development channel, permissions can be public or yada yada advanced permissions. Oh, that's funny. Um, yeah. And then on a given thing, you can say, oh, this role can do this to this thing later on. All right. Okay, so let's then say, are we going to need to have like a roles and permission system? Wondering um, if these are going to be named permissions, like things in the system. So I'm going to have to be able to say, oh, in order to be able to, delete this, you must be an editor, right? But the editor would be just, you know, a named set of permissions. Permissions are hard-coded things in the system, but the roles are groups of those permissions. So we need some sort of durable object that can feed this information out. I'm wondering if this is going to be too complicated for like a serverless WordPress. It's funny, I don't want to implement roles and permissions again. I had to do that at work. It's like a thankless task. Um, all right, let's do it. We'll go kind of generic here. Um, permissions will be hard coded, like the set of permissions. And then roles are just groups of those. So we need some way to be able to create permissions, some way to be able to do roles. And a super user has all permissions. Yeah, I could kind of skip it. It's going to be hard to put back in later, though, you know? Because I haven't figured out the data migration story for durable objects, right? Like how do you migrate data in a durable object? That's true. Very true, Xenocron. All right, well, we're going to have to figure out migration anyways. It's a fair point. So maybe everybody's just a super user for now. Uh-oh, what am I doing? Oh, interesting. Okay. Sorry, still getting distracted with the new OBS changes. We're going to go back one step in our user form. Let's have a little drop down for permission. I don't know why. Select with our options. Is this permissions, plural? Oh, it needs to be a multi-select. Huh. So we enable multiple, size. Oh, interesting, required. Huh. Now it says it's a Boolean, but does that just mean it exists? Size 3. All right, now for the options here. We would normally get this from the permissions or the roles server, whatever we want to call it. But for now, option value. Oh, we forgot name. Oh, value. Okay. Whoa. Okay, so that built. Let's go to it in the browser. It's this form here. Let's turn Dark Viewer back on. So now we can choose those. I think I've used up all my emails. So technically I need to delete the other one. which is why we wanted the other server, so we could populate a list of users and then have actions next to them. All right, now we need a list of users. Source template users list. Okay. Struct. Do we need anything special for this? We're gonna have to contact the back end, the user list service, to be able to get our list of users back. Problem though. All right, we'll get to it. Um, function. No. Actually, do we want to change render? Because right now we're using this render, and render cannot be async. Keep thinking, oh, we'll just get to that point. I see that change on the horizon. I'm gonna have to wait for something there. Some sort of promise to resolve. So when we create a new one of these, we need some sort of promise. Didn't we do this for another one? What was it? It was for... It wasn't for login. Oh, it was for styles, right? Yeah, and here we had to have a different... Ah, this is the one that changes it. Okay. Render has to be an async function. So these things need to be futures that we collect. Basically, we have to make some sort of request to the back end. And we're going to get a promise for this. And then later, we await the promise in render. That's right. Okay. So what did I store in there? An option to a promise. Yeah. Then we have our data. We end up taking self. External. That's right. And that comes off of the config. We don't need to do that. But we do need the promise bit. And this is... It's our list promise. We need to create that somewhere. I'm going to generate a new for this. Arguments aren't correct. Inside of here, we have to generate this promise. Now, where are we going to do that? We have to get a durable object ID. So we have to kick off the whole durable object flow, make a request to the user's durable object, get the list back, be able to render that. Okay. Where were we getting durable objects before? In users? Here. It's basically like this. We have to create a new entry for them on the environment too. This will be users. And we don't really have an ID for these. I guess we could have like groups of users. That would be kind of weird. We just want like one epic user. This is like a singular instance for this. It's kind of a choke point. So we're going to be... Oh, no. We're going to get this from the key value store. So we're not using the choke point. Where are we going to store that though? These are like settings. Because basically I want that durable object to store stuff into the key value store. Because it'll be a choke point, sure. But a choke point for mutations, not for reads. For reads, we'll have up to a 1 minute delay to be able to get the latest data out of the user's list. That should be okay. All right, so we're going to get rid of that. Users is going to be, we're going to get this request off of the key value store. Yes. So instead, oh, this is interesting. Basically, I want to queue up a lot of awaits. Let's say we needed like 50 awaits. Right? We should just collect them all right away. And then when we go to render them, render the page, hopefully they've had time to go to the server, come back, and we start rendering them out. We don't want to get into the situation where we, make a request, get it back, make a request, get it back. We want to make the 50 requests so that they're on their way back when we need them. So in this case, kind of want this. So we're going to be getting the storage. Yeah. I made this function to be like simple to use. It does some checks for you. We can't use it. All right. CF AV. We're going to use a request, EMV request. All right. Now on the EMV request, that's borrowed. We're not going to take ownership of that. Oh, okay. So we have the EMV request. ENV dot. Where are we going to store this? Our ENV has, let's say, settings. It's stored in there. Let's do that. That's a KV store, right? Oops. So you can see when we get settings off of there, returns a KV. KV, we're going to say, hey, give me this thing. And we're going to get this specific path. So we'll have some sort of like a hard-coded path. We're not going to be streaming this. I don't expect this list to be very, very big. Okay. So we call get. User list. And get kind JSON into. So this should return our promise. All right. And what other checks did we do in fetch? Yeah, later we just do a dine into. So this will become an object. Okay. So we've got our list promise. Oh, it's an option to a promise. When would that fail? Now this is just a promise. Oh, we have to wrap it. Why do we have to wrap it? Oh, so we can take it later? Does this other one really need that? Where were we? We were in styles. Styles. It ends up having this promise here, embedded. We wrap it because we're getting this. We do a map as gref. It just so happens that we only do this. This is a special case. I don't think we need to do the same thing. In this case, we only do this if the page config has an embedded style. So we probably don't need that. Options are also very useful for being able to get stuff out of an object. So this is going to be list promise. All right. And we're not going to use this format because we have to wait. Instead, we're going to return a future to markup. We might need to create our own trait here. I think it'll look like, let's see, pub trait under markup. This will be a function render. Returns, could be a boxed future. I don't think we want to do it. Here, so box, dine, future, output equals mod markup. Something like that. All right. We need to convert our other ones to use something similar. Cannot find type user list. Users list. Thank you. Typing is hard. All right. We're going to return an async move block like so. We have to box that. Is it a box pin? Probably a box pin, isn't it? I think it's that way. Let me double check though. Yeah, that returns a pin box. Okay. Standard pin. All right. Let's take that to template mod. That'll be in here. Now for login, let's do the conversion. I was expecting more errors. I know, it's just not enough. There we go. That's better. Hey, thank you for the follow. HP Carnus. Let's see, die in the future. Um, all right. Box, pin, sync move. All right. Let's go back to our list. Let's log in. Let's do page. See, page has render. So, yeah, page doesn't count. That's what calls the rest of this. Paragraph, which is just silly little paragraph. Paragraph. Let's see, content we need. Oh, yes, lifetimes. In this case, we can actually render this outside. Yep. And user form. Grab this one. Did I get that right yet? Trying to get the. Hold on. My bracketing is broken. There. Okay. And this. What's going on here? This is just a form. Later, we'll probably pull this out. Okay. Now, page config is broken. Because these things used get oh, what is it? We need to say that this is a certain type. So our type is string. We need to convert this into some other type. And what are we collecting into? Ah, Dyn mod render. This should be Dyn. Is it template render markup? It should be one of those instead. Each one of those should now implement that. What's our type for this? Paragraph doesn't implement standard format display. Where are we? Where do we say it has to be display? Box-Dyn render market cannot be built from an iterator over elements of type Box-Dyn render. Some widget. So we're converting it here. Oh, it's this as here. This is actually providing the type in that the compiler is using. This one here. There we go. Which I guess we could put it down here. Box, Dyn, template, render markup. That's where I went to look for it first. It's probably a better place for it. Uh, oh, it needs to be collected into a vector of these. Let's see. You have to tell it here. Huh. Can we put that in a more obvious place instead of right there? Say, oh, it's right here. I like it better there than the first, than on line 62. That makes some more sense. If we do that, we should be able to get rid of this. I can delete that again. My wife is making cheese and she ran out for something. I guess an alarm just went off because she's asking me to cut the cheese. The cheese curds, half-inch cubes. I'm going to have to make a little phone call. All right. So now we have a render markup trait, which returns a future. It's just like the other trait, but it returns a future instead. I got a call. Hello. Hold on a sec. Let me mute the stream for a moment. All right. Now my daughter's gonna cut the cheese. Uh, things you do as a parent. All right. And now at this point, is this? Yeah, this is an async function. Perfect. So now we can await this. So we await the future. Oh, but we're templates.iter. Okay, well that was neat. A little replace this with a for loop. That was quick. All right. Oh, did I get render markup wrong? I did. It shouldn't take a reference to self. It should take self. Oh, bummer. Okay. So then we should be able to decompose that, pass in the little pieces there if we need to. Now we need more rust errors. Okay. Remove that. What else? Page. Let's at least fix these types. All right, then we'll go figure out. Oh. All right. Cannot move a value of type dyn render markup. Cannot move out of a shared reference. Page config.templates. What is templates here? This is taking a mutable self. So we're getting a slice. These are basically one-time renders. So everything that's inside of here has to be owned, basically. Going to store that into an option vector. That's worth a try. All right, templates. So we're going to return this. Or an option to that. Take templates. Make it a little bit more descriptive. All right. So we call take templates. We have a vector. So we have a template which should be owned. Ew. Extract into variable. Place with if let. Oh, Rust Analyzer, you spoil me. Template side into iter. Why does this have to be any more than it is? We're getting a future. Render takes self. So what, cannot move a value of type die and render markers. Why is it trying to move this value? Okay, let's look at the other error. The big error for this cargo check. Cannot move a value of type die and render markup. Because here we have this item. We could drop it here and it'd be fine. Like, just change this to drop. And we're not borrowing it. Drain. Um, I'm wondering if it's because it's becoming like a trade object or something. Uh-oh. It died. I'm gonna go plug it in. Be right back. All right. Let's look at the error. Value was moved. Whose size was not known at compile time. Well, it's boxed. And not? Okay. In Rust, you can only move a value when its size is known at compile time. To work around this restriction, consider hiding the value behind a reference, either that or that. Since a reference has a fixed size, this lets you move it around as usual. For example, error cannot move a value of type iSize. The size of iSize cannot be determined statically determined. Wow, this is old syntax. Does this even still work? Yeah, you can't do that. I guess if we did that. and we're using nightly. There. All right. So is it saying that it doesn't know? Well, why? I guess first question, where is it moving it to? Is it moving it for the await or the into string? I'm guessing it's the await. So if we commented that out, put that there, commented that out. It's actually moving it. It's because of this. And it doesn't know what size it is, so it can't move it into here. Oh, wow. Huh. Okay, I see it now. But if we don't take that by reference, then we can't transfer the values in as easily. We'll have to use options quite a bit more. Render would be, you could call it more than once. I don't want to do that. Okay. Ross, box, trait, consume self. Yeah, it doesn't know what size. We just ran into that. Commit self, box self. Oh, interesting. I forgot that you could do that. That's a neat. That's so neat. Yeah. It requires a box and we're using a box, so Hyphen trait? What? Oh, yes. No, everywhere else has to change. Sure. All right. Hmm. Would have to take a mutable reference to that. Oops. I think that's going to be okay, but why don't we just pass it in? I mean, it could take ownership. Hmm. I don't know. All right. Got these different elements here. Good, good, good. All right, let's clean this up a touch. I like to keep my warning list really short. And use async renders. Oh, good. Let's go back into template page or a big list of, where'd it go? No, it's page config. Here. What do we call it? Users list? Users. Uh-oh. Do we have the environment here? No. Uh, I knew this day would come. All right. So let's convert this to something else so we can actually pass more into it. Where are we calling this? Page config is coming from template page. Oh, I don't remember. Here. It's where we use it. Is it passed in? Yeah, it's passed in. Our fetch handler. Run routes. Oh, it's here. Is it? Wait, where is it? That's the wrong one. It's in pages. I forgot about that. Okay. Learn. Now we're passing it into page, this environment. Then we're also passing it into page config, or we want it in page config. Page has one of these, and we call render with it, right? Render then calls take templates, but by the time we do this take templates, it's too late because the templates were created when page config is created. So we could either move this in. And what's going on here? env request, env pages. So we're fetching the current config for the page. So we really want to change this here. All right, let's just change that. Page config. We're not going to use the try from anymore. So that's going away. Let's do a little. Okay. All right. As page configure. Where else? Now for the env request. from obj and env. Okay, now that works. Come back to where we create that. Where do we create it again? It's in pages. There. From obj and env. I forget page config. Oh, it's not public. That's why. And our environment, or the request actually. Okay, clean up some of these. Now we've got render. Should be able to do that. And this. All right. Other than our macros not expanding, it seems like it might actually work. But we don't have a user list config. We can create a JSON object and put it in there. So let's do that. Settings. So something like this, right? What did we call that file? In users list, we're fetching a specific users list, say .json. Was it plural? No, it's singular. Fine. This is more of an array, isn't it? It's an array of objects. First one, email. Oh, these have to be in quotes. bielsa@gmail.com. Yes, permissions. It's an array of strings. Super user. Yes, thank you. Oh, that needs to be in quotes. Do we need anything else in there? Let's see. Super user. Who else did I create? I don't remember. Oh, we probably had like a super user 00005, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Those are lost. I probably have to delete the namespace and recreate it for that. All right. Here's our user list. So we're going to be getting out something like this. Upload that to development. Then we'll have that KV or that file stored in the KV store. Should be able to fetch it and then do nothing with it because we're not doing anything with it yet. Now in our users list, we'll get the response from the promise here. It should be a JSON object at this point. Now we'll take the list promise out of that. And we have to await it in the async section. So, was it JS feature from list promise? We await that. That will return a result. User list is going to be equal to that. But this here, yeah, what do we do if there's an error at this point? Because we're only returning HTML. Maybe we should be returning a result to that. Way to change our render markup. All right. Okay. That's fine. We'll get to you. Great result. Hey, thank you for the follow, Akira. Thank you. All right, map error. This here. Result. Markup shall be equal to that. And it's okay. All right, now we have an error here. So we could just skip rendering that one, right? If it's okay, we put it in the page. If it's not, we'll log it. Something like that. I don't know yet. I mean, that actually doesn't sound that bad. I mean, we could bail. Oops, wrong one. Oh, that's on the await. Now we can return, well, we can use the try operator. Very nice. Now we have our user list. So we have markup here. What are we going to put inside of this? We need to convert this user list. This is like a JS user list. I mean, that's really what it is. It's a user array. It's an array of objects. Are we using Serday? Oops, not that one. Cargo burr. We do have it here and available. Maybe we request this as text and we parse it into our structure. It would be easier. Code size would increase though. I've been trying to do this without Serday. In fact, I don't think we're actually using it in any meaningful way. I think there's one place, and we can delete that. We'll have to do that. And this JS array. All right. Really? Everything worked when I commented out Saturday? All right. Um, so if we have an array here, it's going to be an array of objects, right? But this here, it says it's of unknown type. Yeah, that's not actually our project at the moment. Cyanide for dinner. We're currently working on Mimeograph. I'm into. This is going to be an array. All right. That's JS array, and we need that. So now we should be able to iterate through those. Let's see, what do we have in terms of types here? Can we iterate on it? Mm. I mean, it looks like we could get the length. We can get each individual element here, or we create a structure and go that route. If we're going to use JSON or Serday and Serday JSON, that's going to add a bit of weight, but it might be worth it. So, I think we have something to kind of work with next time. I'm going to start to wrap up here. I think I'll do some tests later and see how much size we end up gaining whenever we use something like that. Right? Is there like a one-time cost, or is there multiple costs involved? So we would use Saturday along with Saturday JSON. Yeah. All right. We'll see. But we're going to get a raid going. Who shall we raid today? Oh, Classy Cat. I think he's tempting me. Are you actually doing Rust today, Classy Cat? Let's see. Just ask him. Right. Sounds like they're building some of their binaries in his channel. All right. I don't know. I don't really have anybody that's like doing Rust stuff at the moment. So if anybody has a preference, let me know, and we'll get a raid going. Gonna pour some water. So maybe Hirosa. What's Hirosa doing? Oh, you'll enjoy listening to me talk. Well, thank you for hanging out. I do appreciate the company. I'd not get nearly as much done without you with me. So yeah, I think that's a fair raid. Okay. Oh, Primogen. All right. There we go. Gonna raid Prime. Well, thanks again. Gonna get going. So until next time, y'all. Bye bye.